Just one moment. Okay, thank you so much everybody for joining us here today as we talk about history, quality control, and unique formulations of Alpha Science laboratory products. And we have our guest speaker today, which is Dr. Vladimir Pak, who I will introduce in just one moment. First, I'd like to just give a quick overview of Alpha Science Laboratories. The CEO is Dr. Gordon Chang, and he has his PhD from the University of Toronto, Department of Physiology and Institute of Biomedical Engineering. Alpha Science is GMP and Health Canada licensed manufacturer and site licensed by NHPD. And we have an FDA license in the process. We manufacture everything that we sell using the highest quality ingredients and have an on-site quality control lab, which Dr. Pak is going to talk about more. And our Alpha Science products are clinically evaluated by scientists, medical professionals, and naturopathic doctors. All formulations have the natural product number issued by Health Canada. And I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today, Dr. Vladimir Pak. He graduated from Novosibirsk, I hope I said that right, State University, and earned his PhD degree from Moscow Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry in Russia. He's a research scientist with an extensive background in both science and manufacturing biotechnology. He has over 35 years of experience in genetic engineering, virology, immunology, biotechnology, pharmaceutical industry, drug and supplement development. He's modernized or developed new technologies used for the manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients for drugs and drug candidates. He's also the author of 9 patents, dozens of articles, and a book chapter on LinkedIn. And at this time, I would like to pass it over to you, Dr. Pak.
Good morning, everybody. You can ask why Alpha Science Laboratories? Because we apply scientific methods of analysis, equipment, research, experiments to supplements, manufacturing, and quality control. So science guides the way in our everyday business. Science approach will be demonstrated in the following 4 examples. Example number 1. All we know about the benefits of omega-3. Omega-3 is especially important during pregnancy because mother does not produce omega-3 and should take it from the food. So this omega-3 goes to the embryo, it fills with energy, it needs for growing brain cells membranes to myelination of neuron axons, and the brain consists mainly of fat. So egg-laying hens were fed with microalgae, and you can see that DHA accumulated from 1% in the food to 3% in the egg, and color of eggs became more yellowish. Next slide, please. Omega-3 from fish oil is not accepted by some people because of smell and taste. So it was a good idea to put it into the eggs or other products. Here, egg-laying hens were fed with flaxseed instead of microalgae. And you can see that we need daily much more amount of DHA than it is contains one egg. So it's impossible to eat several eggs a day to get enough omega-3. So that's why we need another food or supplement to support our body. Next slide, please. For this purpose, we need to eat supplements. Triple omega-3 is a product by our laboratory. We need to mention that we have in our regular food, especially fast food, excess of omega-6 fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids, and really they can provoke inflammation. So we need to compensate it with omega-3 fatty acids in order to make this rational balance that can be reduced to 1-to-1. Example, next please. We get raw materials from herbs and we get it in a cut or powder forms. We use certificate analysis provided by our suppliers that includes information about microbiology, total plate counts, TPC, heavy metals, and sometimes pesticides. Really, it's impossible to measure pesticides because of the huge amount that now used in industry. And every quality control should be applied to each batch of these herbs. And we do everything according to so-called SOPs, standard operating procedures, that require that raw materials should be characterized at the beginning and later traced during all the manufacturing products to the final product. You see, herb can be measured by the appearance, the color, odor, sometimes taste, and compared with the other previous batches. And measurements of medicinal and non-medicinal ingredients are usually done by input. We use for these purposes balances. But what about powders? They can be mixed with other herbs or powders. Again, the quality of the herb is unknown. Pharmacological and biological active constituents of herbs are usually very complex and may consist of hundreds of compounds, and their contents are variable due to the change in climate, regions of cultivation, and seasons of harvest, storage conditions, etc. We need to know not only quantity, but also the quality of raw materials and have the ability to control it. So we need equipment for measurements, calculations, comparison, reproducibility, and so on. Next slide. For this purpose, we use high-performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC. Next slide, please. What is chromatography? Imagine that you have a mix of several dyes and want to separate them. As a student, I was in Estonia, in small town Tartu, and saw the memorial dedicated to Mikhail Tsvet. Chromatography is named under his name because in Greece, Tsvet, it is chrome. Tsvet was able to establish that there were two forms of chlorophyll. It's a plant-colored pigments, as well additional pigments that made up plant dyes. And he invented this technology using the column that have this stationary phase and up this mobile phase. You put these colored substances on the top and they eluted according to their binding ability to this stationary phase. And you see that one by one they elute because they are different, and you collect it by separate fractions, and they can be registered by spectrophotometer. It is a low pressure chromatography and eluent flow itself. Columns are made of glass. It's a slow process. There are other types of chromatography: paper chromatography, ion exchange, affinity chromatography, etc. But we use high performance or high pressure liquid chromatography, HPLC. In this method, use special pumps to create high pressure to push the eluent, and so you need the metal columns and special resins as a stationary phase. This allows to use less solvents and reduce time of elution. But the main advantage is resolution. The peaks are sharp and separated of each other. Next slide, please. Our HPLC can use multi-wave detection of eluted substances. Here you can see these different absorptions at different wavelengths have different colors, and each peak is individual substance. For example, routine is in the left corner. Next slide, please. Majority of other types of HPLC have no this multi-wave detection. Moreover, multivariate detection allows to get information about spectral ratio belonging only to this substance, not anything more. Other words, it is ID of this substance. Let's look at caffeine like an example. Caffeine has a spectrum. It means that it can be calculated at different wavelengths and they be divided each other to having this spectral ratio. And this value, this row of these numbers is unique to caffeine. On the right, you can see, for example, two samples of Viagra and Cialis, which are eluted very close and absorbance is very close. But we can discriminate them due to their different spectral ratios. Spectral result is a program application that makes calculations to identify the substance automatically. Now, next slide, please. Millichrome A02 is unique HPLC equipment that can identify hundreds of substances for one run. Equipment is widely used in pharmaceutical, forensic science, street drugs analysis, toxins, pesticides, and drug analysis. It uses the lowest amount of organic solvents, and chromatography runs only for 30 minutes. The available virtual database of standards allows to calculate concentrations of individual substances in the new samples. Next slide, please. For example, in pharmaceutical, we measured this aprotein, it's a small protein, 20 years ago, and we have ability to compare it with commercial samples. Next slide, please. Here you can see the application in food industry. For example, this energy drinks that only 60 milliliters contains caffeine that equals to 3 cups of regular coffee. Several years ago, I have read about accident with young people who were involved in fitness at Prince Edward Island, and they took 2 or more these drinks and had problems with insomnia and heart beating. So if you're thirsty, don't drink too much of these energy drinks. Next slide. Next slide, please. Here you can see this equipment is used to make wine fingerprints. 2 bottles, one was produced in Australia, another here in Belarus States, and they have very close fingerprinting, like absorptions. But even small impurities, that in yellow, that can distinguish this manufacturer from each other. Red wines, they contain a lot of active ingredients: garlic acid, quercetin, rutin, and trans-resveratrol that attach attention for last years. Resveratrol comes from the grape skin and goes to wine. So white wine has no resveratrol. But light and temperature can convert trans-resveratrol into the cis-resveratrol practically in 42 hours. So we need to keep open bottles out of light and temperature. Here we use wine extract, so it also this picture you can see compared to wine. Next slide, please. So some plants contain ingredients that can be helpful today. You see these fresh articles that Artemisia grown in Kentucky was analyzed, and they found that extracts can be helpful during COVID-19 treatments. Some ingredients, it's not artemisinin that known before, but in summary, these flavonoid ingredients can reduce these severe consequences of disease. Next slide, please. While we do not have treatment or proven cure for COVID-19, there are several things that we know that help to support the body in response to viral infections. Researchers anticipate that quercetin could be a therapeutic tool to be assayed against COVID-19, either alone or in combination with other nutritional substances, antivirals, or other drugs. We take raw material visual analysis plus HPLC before we put them into the caps. Quercetin is a pure substance. 1 peak means no impurities. Time evolution and spectral ratio belongs to quercetin. The peak square provides information about concentration of quercetin in a cap. By the way, omega-3, DHA, and EPA content was confirmed in triple omega caps also by using HPLC. Next slide, please. We were pioneers in HPLC fingerprint herbs analysis. Not too many companies can afford HPLC analysis. We created our own database with more than 200 herbs raw materials that we use to manufacture different combinations for our supplements. Chromatographic fingerprint technique has been accepted as one of the most rational and powerful approaches for the quality evaluation of herbs. Both Food and Drug Administration and the European Medicines Agency clearly denoted that appropriate fingerprint chromatogram should be applied to botanical drugs. Herbs includes numerous unknown compounds that vary greatly in their content and their physical and chemical properties. The therapeutic effect of the herbal medicine is based on the synergetic effect of their constituents, which makes traditional Chinese medicine different from Western medicines. In contrast to other methods, fingerprint analysis emphasizes description of the total characteristics of herbs. Quality control of herbs is important in guaranteeing the safety, efficacy, and stability of the product. Next slide. Here you can see some examples of HPLC fingerprints of some herbs we use. As you can see, each herb has its unique fingerprint. Next slide, please. Cannabis products became popular in Canada. It decreased anxiety. CBD oil has main ingredient cannabidiol. Cannabis contains over 140 phytocannabinoids, although only a handful have been tested for pharmacological activity. Much of the focus has been on the two major constituents, tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol, CBD. Cannabidiol is an active constituent and analytical marker. Here you can see that several commercial cannabidiol-containing products, oil caps and powders were run through HPLC analysis. And different manufacturers and suppliers can be identified due to the different impurities in their products. Next slide. Both the chromatographic fingerprint and Carvacrol standard were applied to identification of Carvacrol and its concentration calculation in oregano oil. A certificate of analysis supported by HPLC requires 40% Carvacrol to be in the product. And here we got, according to this calculation, the square under this peak, 44% that fits the requirements of this very batch of oregano oil. Next slide. Sildenafil is an oral medication known as Viagra and used to potentiate erections during sexual stimulation. And plant bois bandé has a long reputation in the Caribbean as an aphrodisiac. Who knows, possibly the natural ingredient from bois bandé, big pig, will be used with less than synthetic Viagra side effects. By the way, at the beginning, sildenafil was used to treat high blood pressure in the lungs. It allows the blood to flow more easily. Moreover, sildenafil demonstrated an inhibiting role in the coronavirus replication, and the pilot study of sildenafil in COVID-19 is designed in phase 3 clinical trials. Next slide, please. Quench affects synergy between many herbs in one cap. Joint health, allergy, diabetes can be affected by this product. It has additional different pharmacologically active ingredients in one capsule, a wide range of antioxidants, provides energetic effect at different levels throughout the body. These herbs are in green, can be seen in the next slide, please. So you can see these different ingredients that put into these caps. Next slide, please. Inflam FX has a combination of herbs with potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which help to reduce swelling, tissue repair, joint pain, and forms healthy joints, connective tissue, and cartilage. So the next slide shows. Next slide, please, shows these ingredients that contains this product. Next slide, please. Lung cleanse has antioxidants help reduce inflammation, which in turn reduces mucus. It can possibly reduce phlegm in COVID-19 patients. Next slide, please. That's the ingredients of this product. Next slide, please. RESP-FX calms inflammation in the respiratory system. RESP-FX is airway enhancing botanical formula which decreases resistance in the respiratory airways and increases airflow into the lungs. Bronchodilator makes easy to breathe, suppresses mild coughing irritations, and improves shortness of breath. Can be used in pneumonia, asthma, and COVID-19. Next slide, please. Botana cough practically close to this product. Next slide, please. Next example, that we know that each of us has about 1.52 kilos of microbiome. This microorganism can produce toxin. By controlling the type of bacteria which reside in the gut, we can improve the health. And province in Bulgaria, where people live longer, have less diseases, we found that they consume Lactobacillus bulgaricus, known as yogurt. So today, another probiotics that have these helpful properties were combined, and Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium are used in this formula. But this bacteria should be saved due to fillers and starch usually used for these purposes. We use another prebiotics, these substances that come from types of carbs, mostly that humans can't digest, but the bacteria eat them and form our microbiome. So in this experiment, probiotics were mixed with fiber and tested with non-protected probiotics after passage through acidic conditions experiment. And you can see that 82% of probiotics survived when 25% only survived in unprotected by these fiber carrier probiotics. Next slide, please. So this formula also can protect these probiotics from disintegration, desactivation if we use acid-resistant capsules. Next slide, please. So if acute inflammation is not resolved, it proceeds to be chronic inflammation and will have a lot of diseases. Chronic inflammation can lead to stomach ulcers, inflammation, bowel disease, and other diseases. So we can focus on inflammation, bowel disease. Next slide, please. People often suffer from stomach ulcers, and literature analysis have shown that in Russia, stomach ulcers were cured with an injectable drug made of spleen extract. We decided to use spleen extract as a supplement for the same purpose and have done research. According to Western College of Veterinary Medicine in Saskatchewan, 75% of 94 race horses involved in the study had stomach ulcers. They develop stomach ulcers because of permanent stress conditions. They lose appetite and skip competitions. It's all like in humans where if they are subjected to stresses. There was 2 trials with summary 28 horses with stomach ulcers confirmed by endoscopic examination. You can see on this before, it has bloody ulcers. Spleen is the biggest lymphatic node in the body and blood storage place. It contains cytokines and immune-active molecules that support both lymph and blood normal concentrations. Fraction 23 is our research product, obtained with a proprietary technology from the porcine spleen, which is the most immunologically close to human one. A specific combination of cytokines calms down inflammation in the stomach and help repair the gastrointestinal tract mucous membranes. Horses were provided with fraction 23 for 30 days. Appetite restored in 2-3 days. Ulcers healed. That was registered by endoscopic examination that you can see on the right slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Lytis is Alpha Science Laboratories research product with the fraction 23 major ingredient. Lytis was developed and tested with concentrated fraction 23. It takes 100 kilos of spleen to actually produce 1 kilo of this active ingredient. In addition, marshmallow and licorice roots provide components to heal gastrointestinal tract mucous membranes. Lytis is an ideal formula because it promotes antimicrobial activity and helps to normalize the immune system activity. This is particularly relevant today during pandemic. There is a convincing evidence that COVID-19 mediated morbidity and mortality are higher in subjects with so-called cytokine storm. Lytis can possibly reduce the cytokine storm by normalizing the cytokines ratios, unblock the airways in the lungs by calming inflammation, and improve patients' health. Next slide. So this summary of Lytis, which has this NPN number. Oh, yeah, that's all. These products you can describe in our monographs. Yeah. Kerry, practically, yeah, I finished my presentation. Thank you.
Sorry about that. My mouse, I have some mouse issues with this new with Zoom, so I apologize for that. Yes, were you done what you were presenting there?
Yeah, that's all. That's the last slide.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any that have come through at this point, but feel free to type them into the Q&A box to give you some time to ask your questions. I'm just going to forward on to these slides while we give you guys some time. So this is a quick overview of, some of our top Alpha Science products. And we also have many monographs that has a lot of the research that Dr. Pak has shared and other research as well. So if you would like copies of any of these monographs, please do contact us and we'll get those out to you. And then, of course, we do have some webinar incentives as a thank you for, we do have a question that has come in. Where are your raw materials sourced from?
Raw materials practically all over the world. So we have even different suppliers for the same item. Practically, it's a lot of countries, really. Excellent.
Thank you. And so as far as the webinar incentives, within the next 2 weeks, if you place an order, use that code HPLC and let us know what free product you would like to try. And since this one was more of a generic, not specific product focus, you can try any of our products. So just let us know. I will be sending out and another question came through in regards to the raw material source. So from China or North America?
We have China, North America, Europe, Everything.
We measure heavy metals.
Yes, we measure these heavy metals and sometimes pesticides because if it's possible.
Okay, great. After the presentation, I will be sending out a survey, and those of you that respond will be entered into a draw to win a gift basket worth $150. So that is coming. Please feel free to continue to type in any questions you may have, just as a reminder. And okay, another one came through. Would lung cleanse be appropriate in pulmonary interstitial fibrosis? I hope I said that correctly.
Really, it's a question to, possibly Gordon Cheng, President, can answer this question.
Yeah, for fibrosis of the lungs, one of the biggest problems with fibrosis, again, some of the symptoms of fibrosis is that you have issues with the mucus formation, etc. Right? One of the things that lung flush will do, it'll help get rid of that mucus buildup. So it'll symptomatic relief. You'll get better. You'll be able to breathe better. So that's how it helps. If the question is asked, am I going to reverse fibrosis of the lungs? The answer is no. I hope that clarified was to the point of your question.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. On the screen there, you'll see January specials. So the focus is immune support, great for this time of year. So let us know if you'd like to take advantage of our sale of either 50% off or our volume discount. And then just a reminder about our virtual dispensary. Okay, another question did come through. What product supports pulmonary fibrosis?
For pulmonary fibrosis, the things I would suggest from a naturopathic point of view, we have to provide some sort of symptom relief, but you need to provide the body with raw materials to fight off the effects of some of these of the symptoms, right? So anything that supports the lung tissue would be helpful. So I would say the lung flush definitely that we have. The Synugen is also important because what a lot of people don't realize is that even if I give you something that will say get rid of some of that mucus, right? The underlying biochemistry still needs to be supported, right? So things like anything that will support the enzymatic function of the lungs. So you need your B vitamins, for example, right? So this is why I also suggest the usage of Synugen, right? We also have RespFX, which is also effective. RespFX is more of a more broad spectrum type product that will look at things like asthma, any type of breathing conditions, right? So those are the two things that come off right off the top of my mind. There's also boosting the immune system is also a good thing, right? If you're dealing with any type of issues like that, because again, you need to control inflammation. Anti-Inflamex is also a good one to add to your repertoire, right? Because again, a lot of issues with diseases in the body is caused by inflammation. Inflammation is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing when it runs amok, right? So this is why I also suggest things like the Quench FX, right, as well as the Anti-Inflamex to help control some of the inflammation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sally. I'm glad you got a chance to ask that question. Her and I were emailing about that exact same thing this week. And so, Sally, that's great that you had Dr. Gordon Cheng able to answer your question even better than I did. So that's great. Thank you. And yeah, we'd love for you to follow us on our social media. So there are our handles there. We hope you'd stay connected with us. And I'm just going to, if you did want any more information, I'm putting the contacts back on the screen so that you can contact your account manager if you have any other questions. And yes, Lisa, thanks so much. Any other questions at all out there? That feel free to raise your hand if you're typing at the same time. Make sure we give enough time for you to ask your questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us live or listening to the recording. We really appreciate it. Again, we're always there for you. Feel free to use these contacts and reach out to us. Dr. Vladimir Pak, thank you so much for being our guest speaker. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it opened up a new side of things about the formulas for us. So that was really great. Very informative. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.